Goinant, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. Now, in 1999, I know that's 20 years ago now, I was the victim of a political arrest. And basically, I was found not guilty of a charge. I've covered this all in the past. I don't have to go through the details, but it's a very similar scenario that is currently facing Steve Hofmeyr. What they were looking for with me was a test case that could then actually cement a direction in the future when it came to censorship on the internet. And we have basically Steve Hofmeyr and I have a lot of synergy here, because what he is going through now with his charge by the ANC that he use the internet to threaten people is pretty much the same sort of thing, but on a different type of information. Now, I've got a lot here, so I'm just going to give you a summary of what the new South African censorship bill involves. This is a new internet bill, and I call it the censorship bill because it clearly is so badly written that it can be interpreted in so many different ways that it is censorship. Okay, this is what Hiroka passed as comments here. And he says the bill also clearly clamps down on hate speech. Any person who knowingly distributes content on any medium that incites violence, advocates hate speech, or amounts to propaganda for war shall be considered guilty of an offence. Penalty fine is up to 150,000 rand or up to 2 years imprisonment, or both. Here's the progress of the bill, which has been signed into law, and I will actually put a link directly below this video so you can go and have a look at that yourself. There's a lot of info there, but if you're right into research, you go and have a look at how flawed this internet bill is. He says, I've also attached the classification guidelines. This is yet to be tested in court in South Africa, and it looks like the first cab of the rank will be Steve Hofmeyr. There you go. Now, let's have a look at what the Internet Censorship Bill is all about. And this is a South African bill, so it's really not going to affect this channel too much, and we're not into hate speech, we're just in giving the facts out to the world. So what we produce will not change at all, because, you know, we're basically in Australia. But this will have a huge impact on people like Willem Petzer and Ronaldo Gous, because they've got to start watching what they say, because, you know, the last thing in the world they want is them being brought up before the Film and Publications Board for an offence. And it's a very, very dangerous situation, and let me explain to you why. The South African National Assembly passed the Film and Publications Amendment Bill, dubbed the Internet Censorship Bill by critics earlier this month, and now it is set to be signed into law. But what does this bill cover, and why are so many South Africans critical of it? Well, critics are not so sure we need a pesky bill rooting around in our content and judging what is and what isn't appropriate. Plus, there are concerns that the bill will be used as a means of censoring online content. The pros of the bill, and there are some very good pros which I totally agree with. This bill aims to introduce a number of changes, including the regulation on the online distribution of content, as well as stricter rules to protect children from harmful and disturbing content, which is a good thing. The bill also aims to put a stop to revenge porn, where sexually explicit photographs and videos are distributed without consent as revenge after a breakup, and that's a good thing. Under the bill, any person who knowingly distributes private sexual photographs and films without prior consent and with intention to cause the said individual harm shall be guilty of an offence and liable upon conviction. The bill also clearly wants to clamp down on hate speech. Any person who knowingly distributes content on any medium, including the internet, social media, films, games, and publications, that incites violence, advocates hate speech, or amounts to propaganda for war, shall be considered guilty of an offence. The penalty for this? Expect fines of up to 150,000 rand or up to 2 years behind bars, or both. Internet service providers are also responsible for keeping tabs on content. The bill says that any ISP that has knowledge that its servers are being used for hosting or distributing child pornography, war propaganda, incitement of violence, or advocating hatred-based or an identifiable group characteristic will be required to remove the content or be liable for a fine. Cons of the bill. Why it's so flawed? And, we have to look no further than the firearm amendment bill, which is so full of holes, it's ridiculous. And we discussed this the other day with Eugene, so I'm not going to go over that again. We had that Real People discussion where we discussed the flaws of this bill that is before the president, which is going to basically shut down a large part of the security industry because they can no longer protect themselves when they're facing armed thugs with AK-47s, etc. So, what are the flaws of the Internet Censorship Bill, as we're going to call it here on this channel? Many people have cited that the bill is poorly written. Yep, par for the course, leaving much room for interpretation. In an article for Business Tech, Dominic Cull from specialist legal firm Ellipsis said that the bill was extremely badly written. It's embarrassing that the document in its current form has gone through Parliament and made its way to the President. Cull continued, one of my big objections here is that if I upload something that someone else finds objectionable and they think it's hate speech, they will be able to complain to the Film and Publication Board. If the Film and Publication Board, or FPB, feels that the complaint is valid, they can then lodge a takedown notice and have the offending material removed. The problem with this is that Cull believes the FPB, which is appointed by the government, the ANC government, should not be making decisions regarding what is and what isn't hate speech under the South African Constitution. Now, I've just put up that video about the South African Human Rights Commission and their interpretation of hate speech when it comes to black on white. Completely biased. Completely biased. This is the huge hole in this internet censorship bill. Anyway, let's continue. When we can see that the courts struggle with these issues, there's no place for politicians directly appointed by a minister to deal with them, he said. And that's the huge flaw. And that's where the flaw in this bill is. A press release issued by the Internet Service Providers Association echoed the sentiment, saying, unfortunately, while the bill sets out a framework for classification of online content which could be useful, this is lost in vague definitions and ill-considered attempts to expand the role of the Film and Publication Board into an internet policeman. Many of the amendments have come under severe scrutiny from both people in the media industry as well as members of the public. There are growing concerns that this bill could and will be used as a means of censoring online content. So if you write an article, put it up on the internet that, takes on the ANC government, someone can complain. Their buddies in the FPB say, yeah, that's hate content. Then you're facing a 150,000 rand fine and 2 years behind bars. This is absolutely ludicrous. It's called censorship, and it's government-promoted censorship. Speaking to Business Tech, legal expert Nicholas Hall said that while the whole bill is not intended to explicitly censor content, extending the powers of the FBB will have the effect of censoring certain content as seen within the movie In Exeba. That's INXEBA. Further, Hall said that the FPB now has the power to classify and potentially ban content distributed through the internet, including films, games, newspapers, books, periodicals, pamphlets, posters, or other printed material, any writing or typescript that has in any manner been duplicated, any drawing, illustration, or painting, and print, photograph, engravings, or lithograph, and records, magnetic tape, soundtracks, or any other object in or on which sound has been recorded for reproduction. Computer software, that is not a film, the cover or packaging of a film, any figure, carving, statue, or model, any message or communication, including visual presentations, placed on any distributed network, including but not limited to the internet. Love it or hate it, the bill is on its way to President Cyril Ramaphosa for approval. Chances are the Internet Censorship Bill will become part of South African law in the near future. So all internet users, content producers and ISPs need to keep an eye on it as it develops. Okay, so there you go. This is a very, very disturbing development when you consider how corrupt this ANC government is. And for them to put the people in charge to decide whether something is hate speech or not is absolutely ludicrous. But that's how South Africa runs. And as we saw in that earlier video with the South African Human Rights Commission, double standards apply all around. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed, ring the bell for updates, and have a great evening.